Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to this afternoon's display brought to you by the British Army's parachute display team, the Red Devils. With me on the ground then, I've got two members of our ground party in the centre of the arena. You may see the red smoke going off on the grass out on the runway. Now this is our ground party setting off smoke to give an indication to the jumpers up in the sky what the winds are doing down here on the ground. They get very good at reading that smoke on the floor, so if it's skating across the top of the ground, blowing as it is now, then the jumpers up in the air will be able to read that and understand that the winds are quite strong down here on the ground, so they should keep it a bit closer to the landing area as they're coming into land. If that smoke was to be going straight up, then that would be an indication that the winds are quite light down here on the ground and they can afford to take it a bit further back and come in a lot quicker for landing. I don't believe they've already done it, but if the plane's flying overhead, then they'll be coming in for what we know as the Woody run. So Woody stands for wind drift indicator, and what they do is they throw two pieces of craft paper out the plane with a plasticine weight on the bottom of it. And this is another indicator to us what the winds are doing, but this one's for between the plane and the ground. This might be what they're doing now as they're flying overhead. There you go, that's those two Woodies that have flown out the plane there. So the jump master for today's display, we have Corporal Mike French. So he's going to be sticking his head out the plane, watching those Woodies all the way to the ground. Anyone with a keen eye might be able to see his white helmet in the door of that plane. So like I say, he's going to be sticking his head out that plane, watching those Woodies all the way down to the ground. And he can use this to not only get a gauge of how strong the winds are, but what direction they're blowing out of. So if they're blowing out of a different direction to what the Met might say, then he can make an adjustment to the direction the plane comes in so that they get it out upwind of the drop zone or short of the drop zone if the winds are quite weak. So we have 10 members of the team with us on today's display. The team itself has capacity for 15, although we're 14 at the moment. We do have one slot for a reservist from the parachute regiment that is not currently filled. However, like I say, we're currently 14. That includes one officer from the parachute regiment who controls the team. We have a team sergeant, two jump masters at the moment, and all the other members of the team are from one of the three regular parachute regiment battalions. And like I say, we have that one slot for one member from 4 Para, the reserve battalion. So if anyone gets some good shots from the ground, we do always like to see that as well. Obviously, the team members will all have cameras, or most of them will have cameras that they'll jump with. However, that only gives us one perspective of the display. So if anyone gets some good photos of today's display and you wish to post them up onto your social media, please do tag the team as well, as we like to see all perspectives, especially from the ground, and we'll give those a share as well. If anyone sees any red smoke trailing out the back of the plane, give us a cheer and I'll stop rambling on. That's an indicator to us down here on the ground that the team members are about to exit the plane. So what you might see is our jump master, like I said, Corporal Mike French, sticking his head or his whole body outside that plane, holding onto the plane and trailing a red smoke canister. And that's his indicator to us down here on the ground that he's about to exit. So like I said, if any of you see that red smoke before I do, give us a big cheer and I'll start talking you through the display as it unfolds in front of us. So all members of the team, like I say, initially come from one of the 3 regular parachute regiment battalions. All members of the team have also served a minimum of 3 years in their respective battalion, and ideally served for a minimum of 3 years, ideally conducting 2 overseas deployments and preferably 1 operational tour, although these are few and far between these days, fortunately. So we take what we can get, but we still like those 3 years and ideally 2 overseas deployments as well. From there, once they've got their skydiving license in itself, which is a minimum of 18 jumps, they can apply to the team from there, and then they come on a week selection course with the team. So it's more of a meeting the team, so they get to see a look at life for everything that we do, Ideally, the behind the scenes, so all of our parachute equipment that we have and jump with is repaired and maintained within house. So that was one of my jobs within the team. As much as it is a job to be a commentator down here on the ground, my main job when we're not on displays is to make sure all the kit is serviceable and safe to jump. We also have people that book all of our aircraft for displays. We also provide tandems, so our tandem instructor is up there in the plane at the moment. Unfortunately, we are fully booked for tandems this year. We get about 600 done in a year, so even if we're not here on display, we're normally quite busy with one thing or another. Once someone's come to the team then, you normally spend a minimum of 2 years on the ground, although if you're lucky you can get onto the display team on your second year on the team. It requires a minimum of 300 jumps to get display cleared because we need to perform high performance landings. So if we're jumping into somewhere like London where there's a lot of high-rise buildings, you get a lot of burble coming into land, a lot of dead air, which can dump you out. So we need to perform much faster landings, which requires a lot more jumps to master. So it's a minimum of 300 jumps before you can even attempt to display clear. And then over a 3-week course that we do out in America every year, we get about 100 jumps out there, and we have to get about 80 of them in and around a 5-meter circle in the center of an arena that we put out in the landing area. So we go out to DeLand every year in Florida, where we get about 100 jumps in 3 weeks, which does get quite tiring. Those of you that haven't jumped and packed your parachute away yourself might think it's quite fun, but you get on a 20-minute call and you get down, you've got to get your parachute away, have a quick sip of water and you go straight back up. It does get quite tiring at the end of the day when you've done 8 jumps in a day. But you need to make sure that we can still be accurate even after the stress that's coming on. And during that display clearance time, any different disciplines that the team might be doing on that year, they'll need to get display cleared for all of those different disciplines in that time. So you've got about 100, between 80 and 100 jumps to get display cleared on any different discipline that you might want to do. So we have crew disciplines where you'll have canopies crashing into the back of each other. This takes a lot longer to get current at, because obviously you've got to be a lot more accurate when you're crashing into somebody. We also have wingsuit and tracking suits. I believe we've got a tracking suit on today's display. So it's like a wingsuit, but a lot smaller. So it's basically turns your whole body into a wing, like on the plane. And it allows you to get a lot more air and a lot more drive, which you might see on today's display. So he'll most likely be the first person out. I believe the tracking suit for today's display is Corporal Stephen Hanley. So he may be the first person out. He'll be popping his smoke and he'll be flying down underneath the plane and getting some drive under the plane in the air. And then he'll be pulling his parachute for us first. We also have our big flags that everybody needs to get signed off to jump as well. So we have a 2,000 and a 5,000 square foot flag, although I don't believe we've got either of those on today's display. We may have the 2,000. The 5,000 square foot flag weighs 60 kilos, so we need a lot higher to jump out with that, because we need a much bigger parachute to fly down with it. I've just been told that the plane's going to be running in 2 minutes, so I've got another 2 minutes to fill. But if you all keep your eyes on the plane, which is away from the dark clouds at the moment, if that makes any sense to you. It looks like it's coming in now, so if you keep your eyes out for that red smoke that I said about. If it's trailing out the back of that plane, give us a big cheer, and I'll start talking to you about the display as it's unfolding in front of us. And like I say, keep an eye out for anybody that might climb outside of that plane. I believe I might be able to see somebody there. Don't worry, they do train to do all of this. They'll hold on to that plane as it's running in so that they can get out and let go of that plane as soon as they're ready. Yeah, there you go. You can see him holding onto the outside of the plane there. Unfortunately, he's gone just above that cloud there. But he can still see the landing area. He can still see that he's safe. There you go. That's that tracking suit out there. Trailing smoke behind. You can see he's got a lot bigger profile to us down here on the ground than the jump master who's exited behind him. Like I say, the tracking suit today's display, that is Corporal Stephen Hanley, who is trained as a jump master as well. So he is trained to lead the whole team in for a landing and a jump pattern. However, he's also trained in doing the tractor suit and wingsuiting, so that's what he's going to be putting into today's display. To all the members of the display then, whilst they're doing whatever it is they're doing in the air, they're also going to be keeping their eyes on Stephen Hanley, watching everywhere he turns and where he lands, making their assessments of him, making any adjustments on his landing pattern that they need to make in order to land in that arena. So there you go, can we get a round of applause for the first person down today, Corporal Stephen Hanley. Next down, the jump master for today's display, we have Corporal Mike French. And Private Max Torque. If you look up towards the sky then again, you'll see that crew formation I was talking to you about. So we have two parachutes attached together by the hip. So what they've done, like I said, is they've crashed one parachute into the back of the other. They'll then hook their legs in each other's lines, climb down so they're face to face. In the air underneath their parachutes, they'll then hook up, so they'll hook their harnesses to each other, and then they can do performances such as this one. They'll make their canopies fight against each other and angle straight down towards the ground. And then, as they're doing now, they'll come into land simultaneously as well. If you look back up towards the sky, then you'll see that big 2,000 square foot canopy that 2,000 square foot Union Jack flag that I was talking to you about as well. Like I say, it's on a much bigger parachute. Takes much more skill to pilot this down to landing and to land safely as well. So today, flying the 2,000 square foot Union Jack flag for us, we have Corporal Henry Mole. Been with the team for over 8 years now, and he's spent a lot of time. He's current and signed off to do many of the jobs within the team. He is the tandem coordinator. He was on the crew team last year. He does wingsuiting as well, and as you saw now, jumping in the big flag to displays as well. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, all 10 members of the display team today, down safely on the ground. So what they're now going to do is they're going to collect up all their parachuting equipment, take it off, and then most likely they'll pack their parachutes away today, all done within house, and then they're ready for the next jump. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, can we get one final round of applause for your display team today, the Red Devils?
Ollie, thank you very much indeed for that commentary from the Red Devils to open the show here at Farnborough on the Tuesday. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stratton Ritchie. Welcome to the main part of the show for Farnborough International. We've got something like 16 minutes before we actually start with the aircraft, and I'll run through the batting order of what we have. So depending on the airspace that we get, because it's very complicated airspace here at Farnborough, we have to borrow airspace from the arrivals and departures, London Heathrow, and because of the airways above us, we have to borrow that at the time. So it's very complicated airspace. Nats have been wonderful on us, but the first item we're expecting is at 2:15, and that will be quite noisy, quite a different item. This will be the F-16 display. At around about 2:30, the Embraer, the C390, that's already moved out onto the north side. Then back to noise and Boeing, the F-15 in the clean display, i.e. no weapons or loads on the wing. Then the Gokbey at coming up to 3 o'clock. To Airbus, the A321, which is parked out on your left-hand side. Then back to Boeing, the F-15, this time with all the weapons on board, showing amazing display of agility and power. Skyfarer, one of our drones, will be flying. Then the Chinook in from Odium, ATR 72, just after 4 o'clock. Sentinel Jets display, another drone from the north side, just by the new hangars on the north side. Then back to another F-16 display at about 4:30, and then the Chinook going back to Odium. So the F-16 we're expecting in around about 14 minutes from now. So we'll come back just before that and bring your attention to it.
Harriers taking off in a cloud of smoke.
76 when Air France inaugurated.
Instead of the planned Eurojet 200 engines.
Up to 560 tons,
Harriers taking off in a cloud of smoke.
76 when Air France inaugurated.
Instead of the planned Eurojet 200 engines.
up to 560 tons,
Harriers taking off in a cloud of smoke.
76 when Air France inaugurated.
Instead of the planned Eurojet 200 engines.
up to 560 tons,
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the flying part, apart from the parachutists, which were obviously flying, but descending to the aeroplane side of Farnborough International. The F-16 at the end of the runway, shortly to go in about 20 seconds' time, just being cleared up to the airspace of 7,900 feet above us. So we've spoken to Heathrow and London Airways. We've got the column of air above us, a bit of a cloud break, so we might be able to get a full display. The light is on. F-16 shortly to power up and release into a spectacular display from the Royal Danish Air Force, starting his roll now. Straight up to 275 knots, just short of 300 miles an hour at the end of the runway, now climbing up into the vertical. Look as she goes skyways. Over 3,100 F-16s are in service in over 25 different countries. This is the latest, the Block 7072 version of the F-16. Look at the humidity. Over the top of a half cube, and you can see the humidity in the air as that vapor, that cloud on the top surface of the wing as he pulls high G. Staying well within the airfield boundary here at Farnborough. Theo, one of Denmark's most experienced F-16 pilots, been operational flying for more than 20 years, both as frontline pilot and a flying instructor on this very type of aircraft. He's been putting the F-16 through its paces at displays for around about, I can't do the sums, about 7 years. Coming in from the Laffans plane in from the left. Fast run. Knife edge, long knife edge run all the way down the display line. What a superb shot. Pulling up into the 45 degrees, pulling away from us. F-16, the Danish Viper, or Fighting Falcon. F-16 dates from a program starting in 1972. That was the United States Air Force lightweight fighter program. Coming back now, is reducing speed into slow flight, the high alpha. High angle of attack, slow flyby, and then powering on, and he gets down to the left-hand side of the display line. Drifting down. When you come down, you'll see that huge bubble canopy. Great visibility over that canopy. Single-piece bubble canopy, 360-degree all-round view. That means 195 degrees fore and aft, 40 degrees over the sides and 15 degrees over the snout. Slow pass, just hanging on the power, that raw power available to crack along the F-16 at in excess of Mark II, that's 3 times the speed of sound. Shortly to unleash the power of the F-16, around about 29,000 pounds of thrust. Powered by either a General Electric engine or a Pratt & Whitney engine. Controls a 4-channel digital fly-by-wire operating the tailerons, wing-mounted flapperons. It's a side-stick controller used by the pilot, programmed with force field. Requires very little stick movement. aircraft. So the F-16 can crack along at twice the speed of sound. Service ceiling is more than 50,000 feet. With all the kit on, can stress to plus 9 Gs. Power coming on from the right, from the Black Shed's end. A long, slow roll down the display axis. See the vapour off the top surface of the wings. High G, pulling G. TO straight into the level. Roll, pull, high G again. So extending gear and flaps, and this will be what he's called a dirty roll, so a lot of drag out, not a lot of speed, but soon we'll put power on and roll, even with all that drag out and well inverted. That'd be sucking up the gear, or will it gear go down if you're upside down? Anyway, retracting the gear. So in a moment the power will come on. Here we go, nose up, pitch up, vertical climb, and roll, retract the gear. So from that slow speed into the roll, coming back over the Laffans plane. Maximum speed we allow here at Farnborough is Mach 0.92, which is 600 miles an hour. He's pretty close to that. We're not tracking on the radar here. My team's asleep. But how about that? F-16 operated by 29 air forces around the world. Here we go. Bahrain, Belgium, Bulgaria, Chile, Denmark, Egypt, Greece, Indonesia, Iraq, Israel, Italy, Jordan, South Korea, Morocco, Netherlands, take a breath, Stratton. Norway, Oman, Pakistan, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Singapore, Slovakia, Taiwan, take another breath. Thailand, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, United States, and Venezuela. Coming through a series of loaded rolls. Pick up and roll. You can see the G loading on the wing on the loaded rolls. So far in its history, the F-16 Fighting Falcon all around the world has cracked up 13 plus, over 13 million sorties and still counting. This is an old aeroplane design being modernised all the time and still formidable. Theo, a lovely wave as you go down the crowd line, telling me that's the final manoeuvre to position to land. Wandering around the stands this morning, we came across Martin Baker, and they're delighted to say that they've got the seats, the new seats, the Mark 18 seat designed to retrofit the F-16. This marks the first time a Martin Baker product has been installed in the famous fighter in its 50 years of flying. Actually, Martin Baker on their stand, they have a little tick-over clock of how many people have had the Martin Baker experience, i.e. leaving the aeroplane in a quick way and surviving. So far, 7,726 people have benefited and have their lives because of Martin Baker, and I believe 4 have done it this year already. Keeping the nose up, form drag, helping the braking. As he'll be going down into his roost. Next item from Embraer, C390, moving out onto the runway. So F-16 going over to the north side to refuel. He's going to fly again at around about 4:30 this afternoon. So going off to have the post-flight checks, refuel, get ready to go, give the pilot a rest. F-15 just crossing the runway down on the Laffins plane in the left-hand side. The 390 just waiting patiently by, well, the position where the old air traffic control used to sit on the northeast corner of Farnborough. He's not due on until another couple of minutes. Take this opportunity to take the Airbus, the XLR, across from his parking bay to the north side. He'll be towed round towards the fast station area, whilst out onto the runway gracefully moves the C390. This is from Embraer from Brazil. He didn't fly yesterday. I think you'll find this is a fairly short takeoff aircraft, state-of-the-art multi-mission military transport aircraft. Brings amazing mobility, airfield operations, flexibility, and the highest safety levels at low operating costs, which we like. Just waiting for a release from air traffic. starting his takeoff roll now. Countries such as Portugal, Hungary, Netherlands, Austria, the Czech Republic, South Korea and Brazil have already chosen this aircraft type, the C390 Millennium, to meet their military transport requirements. Can perform a variety of missions, obvious ones: cargo, troop transport, paratroop airdrop, aerial firefighting, air-to-air refueling. Indeed, you can see the in-flight refueling probe just ahead of the cockpit, so it can take fuel as well. Various other missions, humanitarian missions, search and rescue, medical evacuation. Capable of carrying up to 26 metric tons of cargo. And it cracks along at a decent speed, about 470 knots. Operate from unpaved or damaged runways. As I say, the KC-390, the refueling version of the aircraft, can receive fuel from another aircraft using the pods installed under the wings. Been in service with the Brazilian Air Force for around about 5 years. More recently with the Portuguese Air Force in, I think it was last year. The current fleet of aircraft in operation has accumulated more than 13,000 flying hours. Service ceiling, 36,000 feet, which is sort of the normal operating altitude that commercial airliners flying around the world will be found at. Heavy combat vehicles can be carried. It's got an unobstructed cargo compartment, which is useful, so you can get more in and get it in and out quicker. Vehicles, cargoes on pallets, troops, medical patients. Combines some multi-mission capabilities with very low life cycle costs in the medium airlift market. Coming through slow, boot for rudder straighten up on the display line, showing that you can move an aircraft like this around quite well. You can see the in-flight refueling probe drifting past. Designs of this go right back to about 2008. 2009, the type was formally launched with an Air Force requirement of 2 prototypes. It's developed since then. Embraer and Boeing collaboration. In the next 20 years, Embraer believe that the market for this type of aircraft will be in the region of 490 aircraft. And if you put that into monetary value, well, it depends on the exchange rate, I guess, but it's about $30 billion, give or take a couple of cents. Flying controls are fully fly-by-wire. They also use a side stick controller. Flight control system provided by BAE Systems and Goodrich Corporation supply the air data systems. In terms of the control surfaces, which you've seen fully deployed, each wing has 5 slats, 4 of which are outboard of the engine pylons. 5 spoilers, an inboard and outboard flaps, 2-piece rudder. Each of those engines rating at 27,000 pounds of thrust. As I say, the operational range really, 490 knots, which is about 0.8 Mach, 36,000 feet, and that's, you can take the full cargo load of around about 1,500 miles or just over. So it's quite a versatile aircraft. He calls downwind to land. So just drifting in over Church Road West, coming in over the Swan Pub. 3.5 degree slope coming into Farnborough. 2 landing points here at Farnborough. The Farnborough Long that we're using now for the display. The regular one is a bit further down the runway. And how about that for a fairly short landing? Turn on backtrack on the runway, well, obviously on the runway, back to his parking bay. F-15 waiting out on the right-hand corner of the airfield, just checking with air traffic in a moment to see what altitude we get for the F-15. That will be noisy. So Eagle 2, the F-15, sitting at the end of the runway, just being given clearance 7,900 feet. We've managed to borrow the airspace from London Airways and Heathrow, so that's good. This is going to be noisy, it's going to be dynamic. The Boeing F-15 Eagle, formerly from a McDonnell Douglas, going straight into a square loop. Each corner angle of 90 degrees, or the fourth part of a circle. Power on, airborne almost straight away. Wowza, that's a way to enter the display. Airborne straight into the verge, go over the top of 4,500 feet. Climbing into a J-turn. The pitch authority, absolutely amazing. The flying control responsiveness to change direction, alter the outcome in any aerial engagement. Certainly showed the agility of the Eagle. Positioning now for a Cuban 8. Like the F-16, the 15 has been around since 1972, but it's been updated all the time. Look at that raw power climbing into the vertical. Up on a 45 degree. Roll, check, and pull. Washing the speed off. A big, big aeroplane. This is an F-15QA from the Qatari Embraer Air Force. Qatari Air Force is going to be taking delivery of 34 of these aircraft. Deliveries ordered in 2017. Positioning now for an Immelmann turn. The QA represents one of the most advanced F-15 variants ever made. More powerful engines. More powerful engines, digital fly-by-wire. I don't know whether we're going to get the tail slide in this one or the next display. Should be on this display, because we are going to get another F-15 a bit later on. Each of the engines, 23,500 pounds of thrust available. Certainly we've seen the slow speed, high speed, the agility of this aircraft. Now coming into the display center for a high G minimum radius turn right in front of us. It's a big beast. In a moment, roll, right, and pull. him now. Watch very carefully, pulling up, speed reducing. High alpha loop. Then getting ready for the Cobra Kai. So you've seen amazing manoeuvres already from the F-15. Watch now as he climbs up, speed reducing all the time, positioning for a tail slide of this huge great fighter. Tail slide, canopy up, gravity winning, down comes the nose. Downwind to land, or final manoeuvre called to position round into land. Now this is the F-15, which is in clean configuration. It hasn't got any weapon stores on the wings. Later on, we will be having the one with the fully loaded. This will be in about 25 minutes, a fully loaded display of the F-15, showing how agile and powerful they are. And if I can have all my notes back, please, Mark, that's great, I'll keep them in order. Gear down. As I say, can crack along 65,000 feet, twice the speed of sound, range with ferry tanks of over 3,000 nautical miles. Can carry a lot of Sidewinder missiles, AMRAAMs, well, a whole collection really of stores. It depends what the mission requirement is. But if you consider the F-15 and the F-16, all came from the 70s and still very much in development and still very much being used on the front line, are two remarkable aircraft. This one from the Qatari Emirates Air Force, owned by Boeing test pilots, demonstrating the aircraft this week here at Farnborough. now, as I say, for something completely different, as the F-15 taxis back, we go to the rotary from the Gokbey. We're just waiting on the cross taxiway for his time to display. Just coming up shortly, we're nicely on time. Well, we've just got a small gap. Time to thank all the marshallers, those who are on the airfield in the yellow day-glow jackets, the guys and girls who are on the orange day-glow jackets that are doing with the traffic management. They're out there regardless of the weather, so our thanks from FIL for their help here at Farnborough to keep the show running. Helicopter just being given clearance to display. This is from Turkish Aerospace, the T625 Gokbey. It's a helicopter designed, optimised to meet and exceed multi-mission requirements in certainly hot and high geographic environments, and also in very adverse weather. Like most helicopters, or indeed all helicopters, very agile, you're going to see it. It's very much a new development helicopter, concentrating on the highest level of safety and operational benefits for operators. New generation, twin-engine, 6-ton class helicopter. Those two engines producing over 1,300 shaft horsepower each. Dual-channel FADEC system also incorporated. Extensive cabin space can be configured to meet the requirements of multi-purpose operations such as cargo or VIP transport, air ambulance, for offshore and search and rescue operations. Although he's going to keep the wheels extended, it is a retractable gear helicopter. That, of course, helps for the maximum aerodynamic performance, getting rid of drag, makes it highly efficient for fuel consumption. It's also added benefit, of course, for range and endurance. State-of-the-art Turkish avionics, sideways flight. So the wind is behind him on the back quarter. Doesn't make it easy, this display line, with the wind that we've got from the north. Glass cockpit, two 8-inch touch integrated modular displays. It can crack along 160 knots, about 2.5 miles a minute. They can go sideways, both directions. Can operate up to 20,000 feet, over 500 miles with the auxiliary fuel tanks is the range. Operated with a crew of 2, and then whatever configuration you want down the back. They say a VIP configuration of 5, but I guess if you're a VIP, you can have just 1. Luxury, eh? Luxury. Round it in, a pedal turn. Civil certification progress of the Gokbey is progressing incrementally. Initial series production will commence, or rather did commence in 2023. How's about that in a helicopter? A salute, a little nod to us as the Gokbey comes in to position to land. A very polite little nod. Thank you, gentlemen. So yesterday, apart from having the Right Honourable Prime Minister here and very other VIPs here at Farnborough, we saw $51 billion of orders being announced. Biggest order of the day, of Monday, came from Korean Air with a commitment for 50 wide-body Boeings. A very successful first day here at Farnborough. Embraer also announced that they had a sale of 9 C390s that we saw flying earlier, 5 by the Netherlands and 4 going to Austria. Leonardo also announced it's working on a series of updates for the very popular, the M346 advanced jet trainer that we've had flying here at Farnborough in the past. Along with the Prime Minister, we had the Secretary of State for Business and Trade, and he confirmed £103 million funding to be delivered through the Aerospace Technology Institute programme. These projects will be led by GKN, Queen's University, Rolls-Royce, ARA, Short Brothers and Zero Avia. So a very successful first day at Farnborough. Those are the odds and sods that we picked up. There will be many, many more announced today and happening today here at Farnborough. Aerospace industry very much alive and well. Farnborough International, who put on the show, it takes 19 weeks to build the exhibition area. 7 weeks just to fit out the numerous chalets. 8 weeks to dismantle it all. It's a huge project. It's a huge exhibition to be put together and taken down again safely. All done by Farnborough International Limited. They also do other displays and other shows here on the site, and also responsible for other trade shows around the world, a bit like the show in the Kingdom of Bahrain, which takes place later this year. Taking off now, this is from Airbus, the A321XLR, extra long-range aircraft. And we'll do the normal Airbus type display, not the sort of display that you'd have with passengers on board, pulling steeply into the climb. This is the new 321XLR, the next evolutionary step in the 321neo family. This is one of the 3 dedicated flight test aircraft currently engaged in the certification flight test program, and indeed got certification only last week, so that's a big step forward. Two pilots on board, Mal Ridley and Mark Lewis. Steep takeoff, climbing, turning away, turn back towards the display centre, maybe descending down to about 500 feet for the next pass. Also involved in the route proving flights, attention being focused on ensuring that the first operators will have everything they need in terms of airworthiness, compliance and operational support, all on day one. Just hot off the press, Virgin Atlantic orders 7 additional 330 Neo aircraft to complete the fleet transformation. A321XLR launched in 2019 of the extra long range up to 4,700 nautical miles, which is about 11 hours non-stop. 2 different engines. These, I think, have got the LEAP 1A, the CFM International engines, but you can also have the Pratt & Whitney engines on board. It's a choice of whatever the operator wants. So that sort of distance equates to, rather than just quoting 4,700 miles, it equates to something like New York to London, or London to Vancouver, or Delhi to London, Sydney to Kuala Lumpur. That really opens up new opportunities for non-stop flights linking primary and secondary cities all around the globe. It has a higher maximum takeoff weight for the longer range with increased payload. Using sustainable fuel, 35% of the fuel is the sustainable fuel, SAF, on board now, that's what it's using. So at the end of last month, the total Airbus orders, completely total, over 24,105. And I'm sure tomorrow that number will have changed. We hope. So having pulled up, usual place, pull up, put the gear down, call downwind to land. Obviously the high level of commonality with the regular, the 321neo, the XLR introduced the minimum changes need to give the aircraft an extra long range, increased revenue payload, which is good for the airlines and good for everyone really, enhanced cabin aspects for long range flights, double capacity of drinkable water tanks. And I assume they got double the capacity for other tanks, but I don't think we need to quite go there. Airbus to backtrack, go on to the cross taxiway onto Delta before being pushed back into his parking bay. Meanwhile, the F-15, the one with all the kit on the wing, is waiting to taxi out. F-15 engines running is down on the left-hand side, down beyond the ATR where the Airbus will be parked. So let's have a look at what we've still got on the batting order. As I say, the F-15 shortly, the loader display, the first of the drones, the Skyfarer will be displaying, the Chinook to come in, the ATR-72. The Sentinel jets have just removed themselves from the display, and the reason they've done that is a customer wants to have a very close look at the product, and that does obviously take priority. So congratulations to them for their movement up in the sales market. So they won't be displaying, they'll be demonstrating that to a customer. And then we have the F-16 just around about 4:30, and then the Chinook departing back down to Odium, only 7.5 miles or thereabouts over your left shoulder, if of course you're facing north. I much prefer the backtracking of the big fighters rather than having them parked on the north side. Gives us time to have a closer look at them, some good photographs you can get. It's a good idea this year, having them backtracking. Did you know that there is 70 kilometres of electrical cabling put in just for the show? Well, you do now. So just under an hour, the Australian industry delegation, they'll be having a reception here at Farnborough. That's an Australian pavilion, stand 3311 in Hall 3. They have the reception between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock here. You're very welcome to go along. And of course, Australian Airshow Avalon. They've announced their dates for next year. That will be the 25th to the 30th of March, 2025, down in Avalon. As I say, you're invited to the reception between 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock with the Australian Pavilion. G'day. Those two birds going down the display line are nothing to do with us. F-15 not due on for another couple of minutes, so we have to coordinate getting the airspace, as I say earlier, from Heathrow and London Airways. NAT's working so well here with the air traffic control here at Farnborough, but a lot of coordination And of course, Upper Airways will be anticipating their time to give us that bit of airspace. So he's now been given the airspace, which is good, and we're just waiting for a little bit of cloud to just drift through to get the upper airspace visual, so you can see there's no point in going behind cloud and doing all the clever manoeuvres, and you can't see it, so we're just waiting for a little gap to drift through. He has been given clearance to display. He's got plenty of time still in his display slot. So it'll begin. Noisy, powerful takeoff. This is the Boeing company in proud partnership with Qatari Emirates Air Force. If he gets the gap that he's hoping for that's drifting through the cloud, going immediately up to 500 knots, up to 5,500 feet to reverse half Cuban before coming back down towards us. Bearing in mind this has got the full loaded kit on board. 12 air-to-air missile configurations. It's going to make not a jot of difference really to the performance and agility of the aircraft. Eagle 1, about to roll. Brakes released. Power up. Adjusting onto the display line to pull up into the vertical, into the Shazam, hopefully planning over the top at 5,500 feet, pulling back down towards us, 45 degrees on the roll, coming down to fly past left to right at around about 350 knots. Popping up to just over 2,000 feet, 2,200 feet, coming back down towards us. Pulling round into the J-turn type thing, instantaneous pitch authority and flight control responsiveness to change direction, alter the outcome of any aerial engagement in a fully loaded combat configuration will be demonstrated throughout this display. Pull, push, power on, accelerate. Pulling up, coming back round towards us, coming down to around about 500 feet for another pull up hard into the vertical, rolling on the way up on the 45 degrees. Positioning now for that maneuver into a half Cubanate. Getting to midfield before steep pull. Pull up. pulling so hard, about 20 degrees angle of attack. Showing off the F-15 advanced fly-by-wire controls. Something like greater than 20 degrees angle attack on the way down from that reverse half Cuban. Now positioning for a high-speed pass. Or not. This is into the max high G turn in front of us. This tight turn radius, designed to outmaneuver any adversary. Keeping very much inside the airfield boundary. From that pulling up into high angle attack loop. I think positioning for a tail slide, taking advantage. We've got to change the program slightly because of the cloud, but I think pulling up for the tail slide, he's got the space for that. There we go. All that raw power, shortly coming back. Almost a stop. There he is, hanging there, and tail slide. Remember, this is the fully rigged configuration. What a stunning display by both the F-15s from the Qatari Air Force, flown by the Boeing test pilots here at Farnborough. Big beast, powerful, agile. Now imitating a whisper jet going downwind. So from the mighty F-15 big aeroplane, we now go to, again, something completely different. We go into one of the drones. So in the middle field, the guys in the Dayglow jackets and the, well, I was going to say Land Rover, but it's not, but I don't know what type of car it is. It's a Nissan Ford Ranger. Size of engine? 2.2, thank you. How boring is that? But out there is the drones, and this is Skyfarer. This is their debut here at Farnborough. Shortly waiting for their clearance to have the display arena. They've still got 5, 6, 7 minutes until they're due on. So Skyfarer, as I say, is about to present the most recent fleet edition. This is the PW.Orca, Phoenix Wings. Those of you at home watching on our streaming and from our cameras have a much closer look at it. Us here haven't quite got it in view. It's right on the north side. Got a nice close-in look, so those streaming at home have a great advantage to see at the moment. Engines haven't yet started, just waiting for their slot time. While we wait for their turn, I'd like to welcome members of the Honourable Air Company of Pilots, the Honourable Company of Air Pilots and Air Navigators. Also members of the Air League and the Royal Aeronautical Society have all joined us here at Farnborough. Very welcome. So start up and launch straight away, exactly on time. The debut here, Skyfarer, delighted to present the most recent fleet edition, the PW.Orca. Certainly doesn't reduce the thunderous roar of the jet engine. It signifies the dawn of a revolutionary era in medical drone delivery, has already been proved. Last year, Skyfarer conducted an overland medical delivery trial conducted between two NHS hospital trusts in the Midlands, utilising this very aircraft that you see flying here today. The trial successfully delivered blood samples, vital equipment and surgical implants between hospitals, reducing a 45-minute drive to just a 12-minute flight. Manufactured in Germany by Phoenix Wings, it's a 53-kilo drone and its cruise of around about 130 kilometres an hour. Ability to fly comfortably within a 130-kilometre route. You notice the vertical takeoff and landing design, which provides ability to operate within very confined areas completely autonomously before transiting into fixed-wing state to perform its delivery mission. Now you saw its vertical takeoff, now into the runway and procedural turns, returning to the sort of copter mode. You can see all the sort of different modes of the Orca in front of us. Skyfarer have a personal note. They'd like to extend their deep gratitude to Farnborough International Flight Ops team and the Civil Aviation Authority and all their stakeholders who've made this future flight event possible. Skyfarer remains steadfast in their mission to enhance the medical logistics sector with drone technology. This month they have launched a world-first nuclear medicine radiopharmaceutical delivery project. This trial focuses on the ability to deliver the nuclear pharmaceutical isotopes across the UK, connecting PET scanners, nuclear generation sites and radiopharmacies wherever. Currently using half-life medicines, you need speed to move those all around. They do have members of their team in Hall 1, and also they will have an external stand that you can have a closer look and talk to the crew about this project. Well, not now, they're busy, but after they've landed. Coming into the hover. There's quite a sparky wind from the north at the moment, and yet not a problem as he comes into the hover. You can see the ability to land medical stores, even in remote places where you might need something special, you know, for medical evacuation or something delivered to a patient. You can bring whatever bit of kit you need, more bits of kit. Certainly from hospital to hospital, that sort of operation. And neatly to a soft touchdown. And we certainly look forward to great success of Skyfarer and the PW.Orca in the future, and I think we'll see a lot more of them and see a lot more routing going around. A lot of things have got to be considered in the way of flights across the country, what elevation, altitude they can fly, the speeds, the routes, all of this all in development. Obviously they'll be flying lower than standard civvy fixed-wing aircraft. I mean a lot lower, around 400 feet, that sort of transition, which would be out of the way of civil aviation flying around, so they'll fit in neatly to that. The eagle-eyed camera crew have got the eyes already on the Chinook, which is the next aircraft display coming in from Odium. Over on our left-hand shoulder, we're pointing towards Odium, that's where Odium is. Thank you, camera one. And therefore, from the Royal Air Force, from Odium, they have their own specialist commentator, so I will just move the microphone outside to them so they can carry out their commentary. Who want to take the commentary in 2 minutes beforehand, and they're supposed to be on at minute 4:04. Well, I might as well give them the microphone now, really.
Good afternoon, Farnborough. My name is Flight Attendant. I'm here today with Flight Attendant Queen Edwards, with two of the Chinook pilots currently serving on 18th Squadron, based out of RAF just 7 miles to the west of here. This year we're going to bring you all something a little different to displays you've never seen previously. And as such, we're going to be showcasing the aircraft's operational abilities in an all-new for 2024 Royal Demonstration. The Chinook fulfills many operational roles, including stripping, carriage of internal and external loads, parachute operations, casualty evacuation, humanitarian assistance, and military aid to the civil authorities. This year's Royal Demonstration is brought to you jointly by 18th Squadron, the premier frontline operations Chinook Squadron, and the Joint Helicopter Support Squadron, known as JAC.
So now it's time to prepare yourself for one of the highlights of today's flying displays. Ladies and gentlemen, please, if you look to your left, turn your eyes to the sky for the 2024 Chinook Roll Demonstration. The Chinook is supported by a huge team of engineers that keep the airframe functional and airworthy 365 days a year to hold national standby commitments. It's worth noting that all the crew and supporting units here are drawn exclusively from frontline units. All of our display activities are conducted around normal operational commitments, and it's thanks to the tireless work of the aircrew, engineers, and supporting functions that has enabled the team to deliver their normal outputs whilst preparing to fly here today. You may recall back in 2019 when, following an intense storm, a dam situated directly above the town of Whaley Bridge in Derbyshire was on the verge of collapse. Engineers called in the support of the Chinook force to assist, and it was in fact the mighty 18 Squadron who answered, moving 400 tonnes of aggregate to successfully shore up the dam whilst engineers drained the reservoir. The Chinook is inextricably linked to the modern battlefield. During the conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq, the unmistakable sound of the Chinook's blade slap offered reassurance to those on the ground, letting them know that help was always to hand. The unmatched combination of power, agility and endurance has put the Chinook at the forefront of support helicopter operations for over 40 years, always making its time and its target, whatever the task. I'm now going to hand you over to Flight Attendant Edwards, who's going to patter the first few manoeuvres of the display.
As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the Chinook is approaching from crowd left, carrying a battlefield gun on one of its 3 underslung load hooks. Flying the aircraft today is Flight Lieutenant Ian Cooper, known to us as Coops. He's one of the squadron training captains. He has more than 1,000 hours on the Chinook, which he's clocked up on numerous operations, including Op Shader and Op Newcomb in Mali. The underslung load Coops and JP are carrying today weighs 2 tons. And if you listen closely, you can hear the gearboxes working just that little bit harder as they cater for the extra weight. The Chinook is famous worldwide, not only for its ability to carry 3 unslung loads simultaneously, but also its load carrying capacity, both externally and internally. And in today's configuration, the aircraft could carry an incredible 6 additional tons of freight and still achieve an impressive range of 300 miles.
Today, the Chinook will simulate conducting an essential weapons drop close to the front line. Under the watchful eye of Sergeant Lawson, JHS have wrecked the landing site and marked with smoke. Not only does this identify the drop-off area, but also gives Coops an appreciation of the wind, direction and strength. Once safely on the deck, JHSS will leave the aircraft in order to attach the gun to the Land Rover and provide mutual support ahead of moving onwards to its battlefield location. Having successfully dropped the gun, Coops has now manoeuvred the aircraft forward and down away from the load to allow the troops to disembark and set up in a defensive posture.
Next, the aircraft will conduct an over-the-shoulder departure. This is a dynamic manoeuvre used to quickly move away from threats in front of the aircraft. As the aircraft climbs and builds rearwards momentum, the low ballistic protection is presented towards the threat. The aircraft's nose is snapped around to give the crewmen effective weapon arcs should they be required to defend the aircraft, its crew, and their passengers. Having built up forward speed, the Chinook will now provide overwatch for the troops on the ground, scanning the area ahead for potential threats before returning to the drop site to offer close-in support. Although not fitted today, 3 defensive weapon systems can be mounted on the helicopter, 1 on either side and 1 on the tail ramp. Their sole use is to protect the aircraft and are only to be used in life-threatening situations.
Coops is now repositioning out to stage left to set up to fly a profile known as the dog bone. named as such because of the pattern it makes when viewed from above. The dog bone profile keeps the aircraft's weapon systems looking towards potential threats for the maximum amount of time. As Coops flies past, he'll keep the speed back, present the starboard weapon system to the threat side, and give the troops on the ground maximum support whilst they conduct their mission-critical tasks. As the aircraft flies past the landing site, Coops will look to quickly snap the aircraft left away from the crowd line before reversing the turn, bringing the aircraft back around in the opposite projection. Whilst the Chinook operates above on the ground, we can see JHSS, the Specialist Helicopter Handling Unit for Defence. They're a joint squadron made up of both Army and RAF personnel and are based out of RAF Benson in Oxfordshire. Formed during the Falklands War, JHSS primarily worked with our UK support helicopters, including the Chinook, Puma and Merlin. They work tirelessly to provide specialist HLS reconnaissance and the movement of essential supplies by internal and external loads, exactly as you can see during today's demonstration. As the Chinook sets up to begin its second pass of the dog bone, you'll be able to see the team's number 2 crewman out of the starboard window. And today it is our French exchange crewman, Warrant Officer Fabien Chauchoir. Fabien has been operating with the squadron for the last 2 years, proving that the famous Entente Cordiale is still going strong. Coops is working hard in the front today to handle the corner smoothly, as not only does this offer mechanical sympathy to the aircraft, but also make sure any passengers remain in a fighting fit state to conduct their duties once on the ground. The crew are now repositioning for a running landing. This is a manoeuvre used when the aircraft is operating in situations with limited power, such as flying at high weights, in hot and high climates, or in an emergency with one engine inoperative, as maintaining forward speed reduces the power demand on the aircraft. As they run the aft wheels on, you'll be able to see how the tandem rotors of the Chinook are used to bring the aircraft to a complete stop. And showing just how much control Coops has over the aircraft, he'll be bringing it to a stop on just the 2 aft wheels before lowering gently onto all 6. As the aircraft continues its reposition, we'd like to express our gratitude to all of our air operations staff who ensure the training runs smoothly, our logisticians who ensure spare parts and fuel are where they're required, and the air traffickers we work alongside who ensure safe landings every time. Here you can see Coops beginning to flare the aircraft and setting up for that running landing profile. The Chinook can be run on at speeds of up to 60 knots ground speed.
The Chinook can carry a wide range of vehicles internally, including armoured fighting vehicles, motorcycles and quads with trailers. Having been tied down securely throughout the flight so far, the team are now unstrapping the quad bike to demonstrate how quickly it can be offloaded from the aircraft in order to support the troops already on the ground. Quad bikes are often used in conjunction with trailers to transport ammunition, resupplies and other mission-critical equipment around the battlefield at pace. With the cargo safely dispatched, the aircraft will perform another over-the-shoulder departure. By using all available power offered up by the two impressive 5,000 horsepower Honeywell engines, the aircraft can quickly depart the area whilst minimising the risk presented by different threats.
The next manoeuvre the team will look to demonstrate is a nose-down quick stop. This is a core skills flying technique used to turn the aircraft on a sixpence. Quick stops are a core handling skill which allow us to keep the speed as long as possible, and this is particularly useful when troops are spotted late in an approach or during dusty brownout or snowy whiteout conditions. The nose-down quick stop is a dynamic manoeuvre which enables us to rapidly adjust from maximum flying speed to bringing support to troops on the ground in the minimum possible time. Coops will be setting up to fly at 140 miles an hour. He will then rapidly decelerate the aircraft and turn using the pedal. This forces the side of the airframe into a windbreak. After completing the nose-down quick stop, the Chinook will then be moved forward and down as expeditiously as possible to recover the troops.
With their task complete, the passengers will now be cleared back into the aircraft with a brand new addition to the Chinook roll demo, the big orange thumb. Wearing the thumb today and operating at the #1 crew position is Sergeant Mal King. Born and raised in South Africa, Mal moved to the UK back in 2003. Sadly for him, he joined the Army Air Corps in 2004, initially as ground crew, then as a crewman on the Lynx Mark 7. He served on operations in Afghanistan and Kenya before being posted to Northern Ireland, where he worked on the Islander and Defender, conducting airborne surveillance. Mal and Fabian are now working together seamlessly to secure all personnel in the cabin before giving the all clear to Coops and JP in the front to climb.
As the Chinook gently begins its corkscrew climb into the hover, the crew will now open the ramp and give our crewmen the best seat in the house. And as Mal dons the iconic orange hands to wave us all a final goodbye. Farnborough, on behalf of myself and the team, thank you for your time and for watching today. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day and week here and look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. So for one last time, please put your hands together for the 2024 Chinook roll demonstration. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, the team from Odeon. Have a long haul flight back later this afternoon, probably take you about 6 minutes. So So next item due up in about 7 minutes time once we've got the Chinook down onto the north side. This will be the ATR 72 with the engines running. Just because we had such a large helicopter out near the grass was cut some days ago, we're going to do a quick runway inspection. A runway sweep if necessary, certainly with the wind blowing from onto crowd. And obviously Chinook to take on its passengers again. As I say, ATR 72 just about 5 minutes away. The Sentinel Jets display has been cancelled because they are dealing with one of their customers, which is far more important, and we wish them great success with that. This is certainly an interesting drone. And the F-16 still scheduled for 29 minutes past 4. If that changes, I will let you know, but at the moment, obviously, the ground crew and the flight crew are all planning on time 2:09 for that, so just over half an hour's time for the F-16. And we should get some breaks in the cloud for that, and then the Chinook departure. So backtracking from ATR, this is the ATR 72-600 test aircraft. Just getting clearance to take off. This is one of their test aircraft. The ATR family, incorporating both the ATR 42 and the 72. High-wing, six-bladed twin turboprop aircraft designed right from the start for efficiency and therefore low fuel consumption. That also reduces the CO2 emissions and increases operational flexibility. ATR aircraft are designed specifically for regional short-haul aviation with over 40 million flights and over 28 billion, no, over 2 billion. B looks just like an 8 in this script. Can you just change that for tomorrow? Over 2 billion passengers transported since the beginning of the programme. It's quiet, very quiet. ATR joint venture between Airbus and Leonardo. They've been in operation since the early 80s, 81. Over 1,300 aircraft flying with 200 operators in 100 countries. Now, thanks to that efficiency of the turboprop technology, ATR aircraft burn something like 40% less fuel and emit 45% less CO2 than similar-sized regional jets, according to ATR. Powered by the advanced Pratt & Whitney engine, the PW.127XT engines. We've heard how quiet it is, well below the ICAO international standards. Very, very quiet, which is useful for regional airports. Connects the most remote regions and communities, therefore obviously boosting their economies. It can operate in extreme temperatures, high altitudes, short runways. It's got a good range of over 1,300 kilometres, 78 passengers. On average, ATR aircraft open something like 130 new routes every year, and last year they opened 160 new routes. Very spacious, modern cabin. Comes in a freighter version, 9-ton freighter version. Large cargo door, which is useful. Now, on this particular aircraft, a lot of advanced sensors and computers. They're measuring and analysing the flight data, which will all be downloaded as the test program continues. ATR 72-600 is currently flying and transporting passengers, well, routing all over the world, from places in the Caribbean to remote islands of Norway, so from that's the hot to the cold bit. Now, this aircraft is flying with a blend of sustainable aviation fuel. ATR was the first manufacturer to fly with commercial aircraft with 100% of SAF, sustainable aviation fuel, in both engines. Well, actually, it was in both tanks prior to the engines. Now, sustainable aviation fuel reduces, of course, CO2 emissions. The emission rate reduction is something like 80%. Now, the 72 family dates way back into the mid-80s. I think something like 86, January 86, first flight taking place in 88 in the later part of the year, October, something like that. Powered by Pratt & Whitney of Canada, the PW124B turbofans, each over 2,000 shaft horsepower. That was the original lot when they started. That was the, of course, going way back, the 72-200. Now we're on to the more powerful engines, the 127, and then you go right up to the PW127 power plants. That's driving the six-bladed composite props. This is all the development. That was the Dash 500. 600 and 500 takes a step even further. The 600 boosts brand new flight deck avionics, Thales supplying the EFIS system. For the Dash 600 passenger variant, cabin employs the latest in LED lighting. Well, that cuts down heat emissions and much more economic. Economy 7 can be used. New design lightweight seats and large overhead bins which allow 30% increase in carry-on baggage. Carry-on baggage is a delight of the cabin crew to deal with. Single baggage area located in the rear of the aircraft, further two located up front. 2017, late 17, they announced they factory built the freighter version. Large cargo door incorporated in the freighter version. The uprated engines, the PW.127, over 2,700 shaft horsepower. Last year, ATR delivered 32 passenger variants and something like, I think it was 8 freighter versions. You can crack along, 275 knots. Range, something like 800 nautical miles. Nice tight turn from this passenger aircraft, staying nicely inside the display arena. And as you heard, it's very, very quiet and ideal for operating day and night out of small regional airfields, connecting the world's network to the larger hubs, calling downwind to land gear extended. There we go, the ATR 600 sustainable fuel display in a very short landing, so there's turboprops into reverse. How's about that? And there's a new trick for you. Don't worry about backtrack, just reverse down the runway. So they'll be parking just down by the Airbus, the XLR Airbus. I just heard word from the F-16 crew. They're still planning on their display at time to 9. I'll keep you up to date if that does alter. We have a gap, obviously, with Sentinel Jet's announcement of good product sales. Take this opportunity to get rid of the Chinook back to Odeon. We'll see him back tomorrow. I haven't seen tomorrow's programme yet. We checked our emails yet, Mark? Ollie? No? Perhaps you would. Check your emails, I mean. So the F-16 taxiing out on taxiway Echo. Where's that? Out to your left. He's going to backtrack the whole runway before he starts his display. So, just been released, a little bit early by air traffic, which is great. F-16 from the Royal Danish Air Force, starting his takeoff run. We saw him earlier today, another fantastic display, and I think we're getting the brakes in the cloud. Royal Danish Air Force have operated F-16s way back since 1980. They were operating the Block 10 and Block 15. These are the very latest ones now. Currently, the Royal Danish Air Force operate 34 F-16s, scheduled to be replaced by 27 F-35s in the coming years. Multi-role aircraft executing both air-to-air and various air-to-ground missions. This aircraft, and indeed all the Danish aircraft, equipped with advanced Lightning 4 targeting pods, helmet-mounted queuing system and night vision goggles, large array of ordnance, advanced small diameter bombs and dual smart bombs can be carried. Danish F-16s have seen operational service in regions such as Libya, Iraq, Syria and the Baltics. Coming through in the Knife Edge Pass. Having seen some of the faster, not the massively faster, but several faster flight paths now coming through in the low speed, high alpha, high angle of attack pass, nose held very finely into the air, but still that great visibility from that canopy. Over 29,000 pounds of thrust available from the engine, which we'll probably open up at the end of the low speed pass. Internal fuel located within the wing, 5 sealed bonded fuselage cells rather. It's been a long day. Drop tanks can also be carried for extra range. So drifting past. In terms of armament, air-to-air missiles can be loaded on each wing. 6 underwing hard points are available, along with 1 under fuselage centerline hard point. Internal General Electric 20mm multi-barrel cannon. Over 500 rounds of ammunition mounted within the port wing roof. It's a Mach 2 fighter. Speeds in excess of Mach 2 at 40,000 feet. Service ceiling is at over 50,000 feet. Long, slow roll. start reducing the speed, positioning soon for the dirty roll, i.e. configuration with the gear down to come through to roll. When he rolls through the inverted, retracting the undercarriage and accelerating away, showing the massive power to weight ratio of the F-16. Gear down now. Flaps extended. High speed, left to right. Speed limit here is 600 knots. He's not doing that, but pretty close. Series of loaded rolls. And with the F-16 calling downwind to land, that completes our display here at Farnborough. Hope to see you all tomorrow. My thanks goes to the team up here in the commentary box, to Mark Brown and Oliver Holmes, and also to Christy Mitchell and Sam Adams from British Airways for helping us out during the day. Do have a safe drive home, and we'll see you, or some of you, tomorrow.